Hi, my name is Jessica Kofi, and I reviewed the article The Social Production of News by Stuart Hall, Chas Critcher, Tony Jefferson, John Clark, and Brian Roberts. Um, Basically, the article was talking about how news in itself isn't just newsworthy, but it has to connect to the audience that is being presented to in some type of way for them to understand the context and why it's newsworthy and have some sort of interest in the story at all. Like it has to have some type of significance to who it's being presented to in order for them to resonate with it, for it to resonate with them, sorry. The key terms that connect the article to gender, race, or class begin with identification, because news outlets first need to identify their targets and who their reports are going towards. They often pinpoint certain groups depending on what stance they're trying to from and what opinions they're trying to portray. And that's usually how they pick their groups, people. They also have there's also a hierarchy of credibility, meaning that the media business in itself is largely a monopoly controlled by a few powerful rich people at the top. So their opinions and their definitions of social issues are usually what end up being largely accepted by the public because that's what they're um, having portrayed through the media, because they largely um, stations are owned by one corporation, such as Disney owns multiple TV stations. So whoever's running Disney, if they want to portray a certain type of idea on a certain subject, they could easily do that through their multiple stations, and that's what people are largely going to start believing for themselves. There's also a structure of selection, because although the media is largely a monopoly, um, their job is also to report from an unbiased and objective point of view. So, as much as possible, without just portraying the agendas of the rich and powerful that are at the top. So, they're often caught between the obligation of meeting deadlines and staying professional and the obligation to stay objective as well. Um, I agreed with much of what this article had to say. Mainly one point that I agreed with, that social consciousness does exist to a certain degree, because we really are one society, one culture, to a certain extent. So something that would um, stick out in this culture would probably stick out to most people. I believe a collective culture does exist geographically, because we all understand the same social norms and the context that makes things newsworthy. The media and their framing tactics do have a significant effect on how people receive the information and the opinions that they form on it. One thing I did disagree with is the extent that they said consciousness goes to. I don't believe that the whole world has one consciousness, isn't one consensus. I think there are too many cultures and there are too many cultural differences for everybody to have the same understanding and the same reaction to one news story. Um, there are different norms in every culture. Obviously, everyone knows that. But just because one thing means a certain thing in one culture doesn't mean it's going to be interpreted the same way throughout the world. There's many different examples where one understanding in one culture has many different understandings around the world and interpretations. Um, the the articles talking about consensus assumes that everyone has the same interests or has any interest at all, and oftentimes that's not true. I did stumble upon two media links that I thought were really relevant to media portrayal. One They both revolve around Black Lives Matter, but one of them is from The Guardian, and it really portrays Black Lives Matter from a factual point of view, and it includes opinions and direct quotes from the people who are said to have founded the Black Lives Matter movement and are really the faces at the forefront of it. And it's more informative than opinion based, but it does give both sides of the story, so it's more like a full overview picture to say if someone was reading it who didn't have background knowledge on the subject already. The other article was from National Review, and that was definitely more of an opinionated piece. They did come out and say straight up that it was a conservative site, and it was meant to be a conservative viewpoint, and they definitely made that clear in their article. They used their own opinions and went and found statistics to back up their thoughts and what they thought about the movement. And that's what the entire article was. There were no interviews. There was no point of view um, from the other side, from people who support Black Lives Matter. It was just a conservative viewpoint, and their main focus was to just say that Black Lives Matter was wrong about their narrative. They're going about their narrative all wrong, and that their point of view wasn't valid, basically. So you could definitely see a contrast on the same topic being told from two different viewpoints. One from an objective standpoint that's just reporting on news for news sake, and an opinionated standpoint that is opposing what the main focus of the story. I posted links in the Dropbox down below. So I hope you enjoyed my take on this article.